Muslims in America are now starting to protest Pride Month. One Muslim city even went so far as to banning pride flags on all city grounds. Now, as a conservative Christian, I obviously have my disagreements with Islam itself. However, I will say in the context of this culture war, we certainly share more in common than we don't, and it is very optimistic to see. We're going to talk about it today. Stay tuned. So we have this information provided here by End Wokeness of a few different cases of this. So first of all, a sense of betrayal, liberal dismay as Muslim-led city in the U.S. bans pride flags. Okay, many liberals celebrated when Hamtrack, Michigan, elected a Muslim-majority city council, but voted to exclude LGBTQ plus quote-unquote flags from city property. You know, there is a great irony, I suppose you could say, to this, especially look at that article out of Michigan. So if you'll remember, under the Obama years, the reason those Muslims are there to begin with is because of Obama very often immigration policies, right? I don't know the exact specifics of the demographics of this town, but many of the Muslim communities you see in the United States are a result of refugee or in some type of form, right, immigration resettlements into the U.S. And very often, that, you know, as we know, the whole refugee thing, if you'll remember back to 2016, was largely supported by Democrats because, as was with most immigration issues, they saw new voters. It's the same thing at the southern border, right? That's ultimately what this is about. It is about gaining cultural and political power. Their idea, if we allow mass immigration into the country, we can upend the political demographics. And for a while, I suppose that has been true, but I have to at least stand there and laugh, right? Because it's actually kind of funny, because in regards to these immigration policies, it was the conservatives for so many years who were saying, why do we need this? We don't want refugee resettlement, whatever. And then here you go. Here they are. They're like, no, we're going to ban the pride flag. So it is interesting to say. But before we go further in today's video, we need to talk about your retirement. Oh, but Vince, I'm too young to retire. Then tell your parents about this, because as you know, we are on the verge of recession, and it may be worse than that. It may be an entire economic collapse. You already know about inflation, which is why you need to protect your retirement today with our friends over at Noble Gold Investments. Noble Gold offers gold and precious metals IRAs. That is essentially a retirement account that, instead of being backed by stocks like normal, which, you know, as you may know, in times of recession, stocks can go and maybe stay there, you never know. It is instead a retirement account backed by physical gold and silver, which, as you may know, throughout human history are always history's most stable, time-tested assets. The default currency of a primitive civilization holds its value generally, and that's why you need to protect your retirement. Go check them out at thevincedao.gold.com. Again, that is the affiliate link there, thevincedao.gold.com. Protect your retirement. Get your gold or precious metals IRA at our friends at thevincedao.gold.com. Do not wait for the recession. Go check them out now. Here's what I will say, as a conservative Christian. I believe that Islam and Christianity are fundamentally different religions, and I'm a little bit skeptical of this idea that whole scale as a world, the Christian and Muslim worlds can blend. I think you see very often in Europe that, when these clash firsthand, that sort of centuries old stuff of hard time getting along is still there. What I will say, however, is that specifically when it comes to this political stuff, and specifically when it comes to standing up to the forces of global liberalism or whatever you want to call it, I certainly do welcome and approve of the help of Muslims in this exact fight. And perhaps this is something that is long overdue, because maybe not in terms of cultural conservatism, at least in the American sense, but at least in terms of social conservatism, right? Muslims always have been, natural allies in this fight. And yet, kind of paradoxically, what have they been doing for so many decades? Voting for Democrats. We know the very reason why that it is. And so I will say, I absolutely do welcome the help there. I think that, we should protest this stuff together. And I think you're starting to see that in so many places. And I know that goes against a very common neocon way of thinking that we were sold for the past 20 years, largely because of the war on terror, right? Well, we were so often sold this cliche for the longest time. The Islamic world was the fundamental enemy to Western civilization. The biggest security threat to the United States was, Muslim or radical Islam or whatever it is. And truly, that has always been exactly what I just called it, right? It is a neoconservative cliche. Are we different religions? Yes. Do we really have our different spheres, I guess you could say, of the world? Yes. But the idea that when you look at all of the forces that have been destroying our civilization from within, when you look at the homegrown cancer of liberalism that really has been the number one threat to our civilization, the idea that, and as I've been told by George Bush and so many people for so many years, the idea that I'm supposed to look at Muslims or the Islamic world as like my chief fundamental enemy in this current hour is silly, it's cliche, it's ridiculous. Like I said, I don't believe that our worlds or our religions belong in total unison blending with each other, but I do absolutely welcome their help politically. I do think that when it comes to some of these social causes that we obviously agree way more than we disagree, I have no problem with seeing this, and I genuinely do think, at least I hope to see, over time. I'm not saying that overnight 100% of Muslims everywhere are going to vote Republican, because I don't think that's realistic. I think there's probably still a lot of other factors at play there. But I do think, as you're starting to see here, I think you're starting to see the seeds of a gradual political realignment. And so I think every election cycle, you're probably going to see +3, +5, +7, right? I do think you're going to start to see this shift in this direction. And in a certain sense, I guess, I suppose it kind of always has made sense, perhaps, but I will say at the same time, I have understood why Muslims have voted Democrat, because A, the war on terror, you have that cultural thing. You also have the issue of immigration, right? Which, immigrant communities, when they tend to first come to the United States, because they just showed up, they tend to be more liberal on all the immigration issues. I guess I get all of those things, but now that, those old culture wars have settled down, now that the war on terror is over, I think you're going to start to see, and maybe I guess the American left is lucky because America does not have a large Muslim population like other places, but I think you're going to start to see more and more of this, Muslims turning on their former, I guess, ally in the political left. And so it is quite interesting to see. And like I said, I welcome it 100%. Any help we can get, I enlist it totally. And, like I said, I don't look at the Middle East or the Muslim world or whatever that is today and see that. And obviously, like I said, we are different religions. We have a long history of conflict. I'm not trying to downplay that. But the idea that that's the enemy, you go and look at some of these countries in the Middle East, and they're actually helping to stand up against the wokeness and doing a much better job than we do in the West. And we're supposed to look and say, those are the bad guys. Those are the people we're supposed to be chief and foremost against, not the people in our own country who are, pushing the stuff on the children and all of that stuff. Like I said, I think it's outdated. I think it's cliche. I think it is optimistic to certainly see stuff like this. So hey guys, Vince Dao here. Hope you enjoyed that clip from the Vince Dao Show. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And be sure to check out the Vince Dao Show live every weeknight here on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a great show. Many are saying this. So leave a like, check out our other clips, and be sure to check out the show. Yeah. God bless.